going on, fellow apes? Um, I haven't made a video about my experiences while meditating on weed, even though it's something I do often. And actually, those experiences, since they're so frequent, are impactful onto my life. And last night I had an interesting one. So there's kind of like a landscape, an internal landscape that one can get to know to a certain extent. And there are kind of sequences of things that one can recognize, I think. Or places, basically, that you can recognize. And I don't know, there is no, like, obviously there's no real literature or agreed upon science as to what the inner machinations of all this is, but that's also kind of why I think it's so personal to a lot of people, is because it's encountering one's own internal landscape paired with one's own understanding. So it's like walking into a new room and you're the only person who's ever been there, but somehow there's still stuff in there. And you're going in it only knowing what you know. Anyway, with all that said, last night... so there are places that I've come to recognize on the inside of my own head. And I think that they can correspond, if you want to make connections to other people's experiences with heightened states of awareness or higher vibrations or whatever. There's kind of like for me and for other people who I've talked to and heard about, there's kind of a series of tunnels and doors before you go into this other place. And yeah, I don't know, some people have called it the waiting room, I guess, like when you're doing DMT. So last night I was meditating, and kind of out of the darkness behind my eyelids comes this tunnel, like a a winding tunnel, and the walls kind of look like a matrix grid, like a grid of lines that have the curvature of the tunnel. And this is something that has happened to me many times, but doesn't happen every time I meditate, and doesn't even happen every time I do psychs. So yeah, I saw the tunnel, and every time I see the tunnel, I am pleased, because I know I'm at the beginnings of an opportunity to go to that other place. So I saw the tunnel and started going through it. And this is kind of a point in my meditation where I still am completely aware of my body, but I am also feeling myself detached from it. And the further you can't go down the tunnel while still in your body. Like, you kind of have to leave. And one can achieve this by letting go, obviously, and surrendering one's trust and humanness over to the entirety of everything, and you know how it goes. So I was surrendering, giving up, going through the tunnel, and they're kind of like these metaphysical doorways in between material reality and what I like to call the control room of reality. And the control room is the place I went on DMT, and is the place I've gone a couple times on mushrooms. And the difference between like a sober meditation and a meditation under the influence of chemicals is that everything is more vibrant and more real, more tangible. It's like you kind of really have to focus when you're sober meditating to recognize even the tunnel or whatever. But for me, when I smoke a lot of weed and then immediately lay down in silent darkness and try to float off, it's kind of like an in-between sober and, say, 4 grams of shrooms, because there are visuals, like I could see the tunnel and I could see the matrix grid and all that, but at the same time, if things start to get like gnarly, I can just open my eyes and like I'll see shimmering walls and all that shit, but whatever, I'm rambling. I was going down the tunnel, and there are these metaphysical, like puzzle doors, like blockades. It's kind of like if you're trying to, like, imagine like one of those Indiana Jones movies or something where he's going into a temple, and it's like, you know, right there at the core is that thing that you're trying to get to, and then there are all these tunnels and puzzles and traps basically leading in. And those traps are, I say metaphysical because it's not just like you see a fucking thing in your way and you go around it or whatever. It's like you're faced maybe with a thought or a conception that you hold. And when I say you, I'm basically saying me. I'm only speaking out of my subjective experience, but these doorways kind of give way when you overcome maybe a misconception about reality. So, like, for example, I was going through the tunnel and came to, man, it's so hard to explain. It's real easy for me to like sit and think about my experiences because I don't have to English them, you know? But it's really hard to explain. You come to this like switch, or like this fucking difference in the tunnel, like a doorway. Let's just say a doorway. And so I'm going down, through, up, whatever, and I'm faced with a thought that I hold, like I don't know, probably a really personal thing. I'm thinking like, I don't know, like I'm scared, or I'm unsure about my future. And these are things that I subconsciously hold within my mind without even maybe realizing it, and things that I take as truths but are revealed to not be truths. And the way past the door is kind of like just giving up, just like just surrendering. And there are levels of surrender is basically what I'm trying to say. And you can think of each level, each doorway is another level of surrender, is another piece of yourself you're giving up. And it's like the first doorway is, I recognize I'm not my body. And then I recognize I'm not even my thoughts or my conceptions of reality. And then I recognize that the way I think of myself, like using the word I and all this stuff, there is really none of that. And there are these levels, and each doorway you go through grants you a little bit closer to that thing in the center. So whatever. I go through all the doorways, surrender, give up everything. And this has happened to me, I don't know, maybe 5 times. But at the end of the tunnel is like a dome made of kind of the same stuff the tunnel is. This grid of light. But there are always these entities in there. And I don't like saying machine elves because I don't know. I mean, all I know is that there were presences there, and I was in there. And they're kind of, I don't know, they look like little, I don't fucking know, dude, little pebbles, little rocks, like little pieces of opal. Like if you took a bunch of like little, oval, whatever a 3D oval is, made of opal, and I don't know, that's what they look like, a fucking rock. I don't know what to say. But these are the same things that I encountered for the first time on my first real shroom trip, like at the very center. And these are the things that I have encountered a few times during meditations, and I don't know, I know about them, and they're there in my internal landscape, and they're there at the end of the tunnel most of the time. And so I burst into the dome, as I have a few times before, and they are singing. They're always singing. And they're kind of spinning around. If you think of the dome as like if you were to go inside of a donut, right? So like that center is a wall. If you were on the inside of a donut and you looked around, like behind you would be the outer wall of the donut, but then there's that part where the hole is of the donut, and that's kind of like these two protrusions that come from the top and the bottom of the dome while you're inside. And I don't ever know how many there are, because I mean they're like spinning and moving and shit, and they're in there singing, and I can't hear what they're singing like with my ears, but I can tell they're singing, and they're singing for me. And sometimes I can sing with them, but this time I was just observing, and I was just curious. Like I was like this is whatever, the 5th, 7th, I don't know. It's happened to me so many times where it's like this time I burst in there and I'm like, man, what the fuck is this? Like what is going on? How, like, this is obviously a place or I don't know, a wavelength which I can access, whatever, dude. It's a place that's in there that I have gone to and can go to. And they're spinning around the center of the dome, singing. And it's like dark in there, but everything's made of light. And in the middle, where the two protrusions meet, in the middle, like to go back to the donut analogy, this would be where the donut hole comes from. Right there in the middle, there is another cylinder. You know what, I'll throw a picture up of it right now, a drawing, because I've drawn this thing a bunch of times. But there's this cylinder in the middle that has like this ring, these two rings. Okay, I'm going to try to explain this as best I can. Imagine an oval standing vertical, like a 3D oval standing vertical, and around it, like a hula hoop, is a ring of white light. And then if you take that ring and duplicate it and then have it perpendicular to itself, you can see the drawing, but they're singing and spinning around this thing in the middle, and they go, I mean, they're not speaking English and I'm not hearing them, but whatever, dude. They go, this is where you are. You are here. You are from this place. This is where you are. Like, and they're emphasizing this thing in the middle, and I think that this reality here, the one that I'm acting in right now, is some sort of a training ground for understanding and for creation. And the real me exists on some different plane with all these elves, all these opals, all these rocks, all these fucking dancing gnome pebbles. And I think I'm one of them. And I'm in this simulation in some sort of a sensory deprivation chamber. That is the thing in the center of the donut. And people have talked about or theorized about synchronicities and numbers showing up and all this stuff being messages from into the simulation by those things outside of it. It's so hard to talk about. I honestly don't really know what I'm talking about. I just push myself into these experiences and attempt to articulate them. But it was crazy. And I think that, or I feel these things. I don't logically think them or whatever, but I feel that internal voice that we all have, that, you know, maybe some of you guys don't listen to or don't acknowledge as real, but there is a logos within us, and this is what most philosophy has been about for a very long time in human history. But I feel like that voice is a collective of these elf-like shiny ass fucks running around in a donut in my head. I feel like there are planes or levels in which consciousness can exist, and material three-dimensional reality is just one of them, and the one above it is this one with the dome and with the source is in there, and light beings and all this shit that you hear people talking about, and that I'm always talking about, I feel like is in the one above us. And I think one can access these higher planes of existence by altering their consciousness uh, altering their consciousness's reception. Like when you lay down in your bed in the dark, it's stimulating some sort of sensory deprivation, and this is how one can experience like out of body experiences while on psychedelics or just meditating or smoking weed or any of this shit. And I have a hunch that in that higher dimension, my higher dimensional self is currently plugged into this reality, as opposed to this being the real me going off and finding some other thing. This what I'm in right now is the other thing. And when I go off and meet these entities or whatever, that's me finding my way back into true reality. And I have really nothing to make of it besides me knowing that I'm here for a reason, and that reason being to create and to understand and to play and to love. Those reasons, I guess. And knowing all this stuff is, knowing all that actually pulled me out of like a pretty suicidal depression, so I mean, I guess some good has come from it, but my point is just that I don't really want to attempt to make anything of it, because I don't know what really can be made of these experiences other than me just trying to articulate it. And if anyone else has similar experiences, I mean, there's nothing I love more than talking to you guys about your guys' experiences. And so yeah, if anyone has anything similar, let me know. Or anything not, I mean, just talk to me, comment, I love it. Oh, and also, I don't talk about the numbers on my videos, but like views or subscribers or anything, but today I hit 700 subscribers. That blows my like, trying to think about a room of 700 people. Whew. But yeah, it blows my mind, because it's like, I don't know, I was never I didn't think my words or my articulation of my experiences could be so important to anyone, but a lot of the comments I've gotten have told me how much I've either reminded people of things or changed their perspective, or I mean, some people even say they cry and stuff, and it's amazing to me to be able to, through the medium of the internet, expose myself and have other people respond and resonate with what I say. But yeah, 700 subscribers blows my mind. Thank you all so much. I love all you guys with all my heart. Yeah, I don't know. Just rambling again, so keep trucking, live in love, and good luck to all my travelers, my fellow apes.